We want to turn now to Republican strategist and CBS News contributor Frank Luntz, who has been speaking with members of Congress during this transition period. And Frank, we heard about the tech summit. I want to get to that in just a moment. But what are you hearing as it regards how Capitol Hill is seeing the Russian meddling in the election, and what sort of proxy fight then we might see during the confirmation hearing of Rex Tillerson?
So they want to hold, in essence, the electoral process accountable for what happened. And this is both parties. They really do want to investigate. The problem that I see with this is that we've already poisoned the political pool over the last 18 months. And this is going to delegitimize the democratic process even further, perhaps permanently. So there is a public component to this that I'm very concerned about, although the American people do have the right to know. Second is that watching the Democrats, they're going to be as important as the Republicans, particularly in the Senate, because you can't get to 60 votes without at least 8 Democratic senators. Are they going to cooperate and compromise, or are they going to stonewall Trump's initiatives? We don't know yet. I know that there's some Democrats who want to be part of the solution and want to try to impact the legislation.
How legislation like health care, tax reform?
This is serious stuff here. Immigration, budgets, welfare. This is a fundamental change over the last 8 years. The question is, how much gets rolled back? How much stays as law? And what kind of relationships do they have? The Democratic leadership wants to challenge Trump every step of the way, but a number of followers don't. And by the way, it's the same thing as the unions. The union bosses, they all lined up behind Hillary Clinton. 45% of union membership voted for Donald Trump.
Is there optimism on Capitol Hill about anything?
Good question. Depends on who you talk to. For most Democrats who were stunned at the election result, they can't believe this is happening. And frankly, they don't like Trump's picks, but they're not going to oppose them, or they may oppose them, but they won't try to stonewall it. I think the Secretary of State nomination is going to be the most difficult because he comes from the business community, the oil community, and Vladimir Putin's relationship with him. But in the end, if you ask me to predict right now, I think every pick goes through.
You do?
Yes.
Tillerson included?
Yes.
How ugly is that fight?
Elizabeth Warren will make everything ugly. Sherrod Brown, Bernie Sanders, because they're ideologically opposed, and so they will oppose every nomination.
But what about Rubio and McCain and Graham as it regards Tillerson and a proxy fight over Russia?
They will ask tough questions, but that's appropriate. And if he can't answer the tough questions, then he doesn't deserve to be in that position. I've tested him before. I've never worked for ExxonMobil, but I've tested him. He's one of the best communicators in the business community. But the fact that so many Republicans have raised questions tells me that this is not a slam dunk.
Let's turn to the tech summit that we saw yesterday at Trump Tower, and specifically the fact that the president-elect's adult children were present for this meeting. In terms of Eric and Donald Jr., the two whom the president-elect has said he will be turning over his business interests, and yet this was a meeting ostensibly regarding government policy. Is there, as it regards conflict of interest, a problem here?
There will be problems when Donald Trump takes office, and I expect that there will be changes to that relationship at that point. At this point now, he's still a private citizen, and they're still not only discussing government policy, but corporate policy.
He's a private citizen, but he's also, at this point, the president-elect. And they are meeting with him because he's the president-elect.
On the 20th of January, you have a legitimate concern. At this point now, it is still, and it was not an official meeting. It was not in the White House. It was not in a government place. And I don't want to sound like this is a technicality, but they are still private citizens. The people who came from the tech summit, it was put together by individuals in a private way. It is not meant to affect government policy. You're right, after the 20th of January. But there's a big difference between this kind of conversation, which is between private individuals, and something that is government and public policy.
Donald Trump was supposed to have a press conference today. discussing his business interests and ostensibly the potential conflicts.
And he was foolish, by the way. He was foolish to do it this quickly.
And it's been postponed, so
Yes.
he won't be doing it this quickly. As it regards the CBS polling, though, regarding his conflicts of interest, 70% of those asked by CBS as to the change he has put forward. I'm going to give it to my adult children. 70% still say, well, there's still going to be a conflict of interest. And I guess, as we saw with all polling in the aftermath of this election, is it fair to say that there's no mutual exclusivity here? People can think there will be conflict of interests, and they're still going to do it.
But they could think that there will be conflict of interest and still approve of what he's doing. Right direction is at its highest point in 7 years. Consumer confidence is at its highest point in 7 years. Black Friday, people spent more money than at any point in many, many years.
Stock market is climbing up Everest.
The dollar is way up. There has been a fundamental change in how we look at life. Once again, I want to acknowledge your point is legitimate. The key is timing, and once he does it, he has to do it right. He should never have rushed it. He should not have scheduled this date. But you can't criticize him for saying we're not ready yet. That's candor. That's honesty. That's what you would want from someone. I think it would be wrong if he rushed it and then changed it. Better to get it right the first time.
Frank Luntz, as always. The insight, appreciated.
Thank you.